Okay, let's give this a go. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. Seems as though our audio issues are sorted out. Luckily for us, the sunrise provided something beautiful to look at whilst we tried to sort out all the problems that we were experiencing. But good morning, my name is Jamie. I have Dave on camera with me, and we're off on a search of the eastern boundary to see if maybe Tingana might have brought Tundi along for a visit. He was with her yesterday on Torchwood, so the property to the east of us, not too far away at all. And in fact, I think Brent heard him calling right at the end of yesterday's sunset safari. So that is my plan as it stands for our drive this morning. That being said, nothing ever goes exactly according to plan out here. Now, Indiana James has said that it looks as though with our cloudy start that Brent and myself might be needing our blankies this morning. Actually, luckily for us, the clouds have actually insulated the earth this morning, and because they're not really rain clouds or thick or heavy and low, it's warmer than it has been recently. So it's 23 degrees centigrade, which is 73 Fahrenheit. Not chilly at all. Well, not as chilly as it has been recently. I've still got my jacket on. 23 degrees is winter temperatures for us. Now don't forget, because I don't know if Brent was able to tell you this, but if you're joining us for the first time, you can send through questions to our show on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions on WildEarthTV. We love to hear from you. Questions or comments, all good. And we're coming to you live from Djuma and Arathusa game reserves in the Sabi Sands in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. I've got a funny feeling you might lose me through this dip, which is why I'm crawling at snail speed as we continue along. We're just going down the other side of a crest, and Wendy's been a little bit sick when it comes to signal. We've been sticking to the western edge of Djuma. I thought perhaps it was the day to push the boundaries and just see if maybe it's fear of losing signal rather than actually losing signal. Let's see how we go, but just in case I do lose you, let's jump on the back of Brent's vehicle.
So we're back in that area where we think Karula might have a kill, and no tracks yet. And we are checking very carefully. It's a little bit more difficult to see tracks in the dark. So that's why I'm going very slowly. And every now and then you'll notice me put the spotlight off the side of the vehicle and hold it down the road like that. And that's so I can throw a shadow if I think I see a track. And just to make sure we don't miss anything. I think it is going to be quite a spectacular morning, even though there's quite a lot of cloud around. It all looks quite low and fluffy, and I think it's going to burn off as the sun gets higher. Ooh, I hear something interesting. We can hear a bird calling down towards there we go, Mwati. There we go, that very wonderful fluid chortle. Now that is the robin chat we saw for the first time on live drives a few days ago. It is the white-throated robin chat. So we definitely, when it gets a bit lighter, we know which area they're in. Let's go see if we can get them on camera for a second time. Maybe a bit better of a view this time. Deborah, the armchair traveler, says, congratulations, Wild Earth and Safari Live. We have over 8,000 followers or subscribers on YouTube. And that is incredible if I think how much we have grown in the short time that I've been here. How does that make you feel, Viam?
Nice.
Nice, Viam. Nice. One word answer from Viam. Not warm and fuzzy, just nice. Okay. Viam, a man of many camera talents, but not many words when he's on the back of the vehicle. Oh, morning, early Franklin. So now, if Karula does have a kill or a den on Djuma, and a kill or a den on the property to the south of us, she's going to be traversing up and down. So there's a good chance you can catch her on the move, moving between these two spots. Just see, I'm just checking for tracks. But then here, we can zone the area. But it is getting to that very exciting time when those little cubs are going to be about 2 months old, and they're going to be able to climb trees and that, so we are possibly going to start viewing them. And now this all depends on the circumstances, and we'll only be able to make that call once we see them. If we still feel they're a bit young, a bit nervous, a bit jumpy, or she's a bit upset, we'll again immediately zone that area. But it is very exciting times. Leo in Washington says, well, if Karula was patrolling her territory and scent marking, how close would we have to be to the scent mark to smell it if it was very fresh? Probably within about 10 to 15 meters. Obviously, our sense of smell is not nearly as developed as a leopard. It's one of our senses that has slowly become less and less developed the more we evolved, the more we rely on our brain and our verbal communication. We haven't had to rely on smells as much. So we'd have to be quite close. So our plan from here is we're going to check up towards Weaver's Nest, and then we'll check through to the southern boundary, and we'll check very carefully along the southern boundary. If we can't find any tracks crossing out in that general area, I think we'll head a little bit further east. Right before the end of the sunset safari, we did have audio of a leopard rasping. And I think that was Tingana, who was found to the east of us, and he might be on his patrol, and he might be moving back towards Djuma. So there are options this morning. I think it's definitely worth really checking this area properly before we move on. Now Tingana, most male leopards, can walk incredible distance. I mean, a few days ago, I think Tingana did a good 12 or 13 kilometer stroll before resting up in Torchwood. And he did that overnight. It's not impossible, but it's normally you don't find them moving more than about 4 or 5 kilometers in a night. But sometimes, specifically with males, and that goes for both lion and leopard, if they're on a mission, they're on a mission. Now, this is quite interesting. I'm not quite sure. I can't really see it nicely. It looks like a possible drag mark here, but it's a bit dark still. Just trying to make sure it's not elephants or an ant run. Okay, well, I think I'm going to have to come back here when it's a little bit lighter. I'm not going to walk in this half light just yet. My eyes are not quite where they should be to go into a thick area like that. So I'm going to do a loop around and then come back and check that possible drag. You can just look with the spotlight in the trees quickly down in the drainage. Just double checking. Now, leopards will hoist, not always though. If they feel there's not too much of a threat of losing their kill to hyenas or lions, they might leave it on the ground for a while, or if it's a bit of a big kill for them. Now, that definitely wasn't there last on the Sunset Safari, and I can tell you with a fact, Karula definitely wasn't in this particular block here, because I did check every decent tree for a leopard to put a kill in, and I did walk that whole little drainage system. I only saw 2 sets of tracks. The ground is very hard at the moment. Now, B. Wilson has picked up on some very exciting news. In the near future, we'll be extending our traverse zone and we'll be adding cheetah plains to it. And she would like to know, are there any particular animals I'm looking forward to seeing down there? Well, there's quite a few. So hopefully, by the time all the antennas and everything is set up, Quarantine and Djuma will still be about in that area. It could have moved, as does happen with young male leopards. They could have moved further on, but fingers crossed. Also, very exciting to just traverse a new area, and right on the gabbro soil, so much more open grasslands. So we do get quite a few more cheetah sightings in that area. By no means every day, but you do have the opportunity to see cheetah a little bit more often. So quite excited about that. And then there's a couple of different leopards. One I haven't seen before, who seems to be setting up territory in that area, and that is one of Karula's past kids, Shavambalan, the male leopard. And also, of course, great to see Tandi also is seen in that area quite frequently, as well as on the eastern side in Kanyanin. So, and she's got 2 cubs, probably about 3.5, 4 months now. So I have seen those, but very, very exciting nonetheless. And the Birmingham boys spend a lot of time there compared to Djuma. So there's always that. And the Styx lioness also seem to spend more time there. So there's a whole host of other species, or not species, other individuals or potential characters that we can start voyeuring on. Megan comes in, so I walked that whole block looking for a kill in a tree, and she'd like to know how heavy a kill can a leopard put in a tree. Well, Megan, again, it depends on the leopard. A big male leopard like Tingana can probably put a small kudu up a tree, but a small female like Karula will battle with an adult female impala. So the biggest she's probably going to put up a tree straight away is a young impala, a sub-adult. but it all just depends. So they can generally lift, well, in Karina's case, probably about her own body weight or even a bit more. So I wasn't only looking for a kill in a tree. The reason I went sneaking through that drainage system or little river system was to see if she was not possibly keeping her cubs in there. So we're looking for both a kill or a den, one of the two. So we're now on the southern edge of the traverse, so I'm going to be going very slowly and asking VM to keep an eye out as well. Oh, what have we found? That looks... You do find strange things out in the bush. VM, do you need a new item for your motor car? VM really loves his car and he keeps adding to it. And I don't think we're going to find the owner of this, but it's very shiny. And VM seems to like shiny things. Maybe not. I don't think you want this one. I think this is from a headlight that's popped out of someone's car. But I just saw the shiny thing, and like a crow, I was attracted to it. But there we go, VM, it's for you.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay, where are my ears gone? There they are. So we do find strange things sometimes. Cell phones, cameras, hats, jerseys.
I picked up a camera.
Yes, VM picked up a camera this year. So all sorts of funny things. We generally do try return them to their owners, but sometimes their owners have left or we can't find the owners. I think possibly one of the strangest things I found on safari was an electric toothbrush. Not exactly something you expect to find while tracking animals through the bush. While we keep checking carefully around here, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
Let's see how many strange vehicle objects Brent can find in the bush. There's that instant moment when you hear something like that you start to worry about what it is you might have bashed off your vehicle. And if it was in fact something that came from Wendy, but we seem to be all intact, thank goodness. I've definitely found some very, very strange things in the bush, some of which are fairly unmentionable. Otherwise, some that are fairly conventional. Especially, we used to do a river cleanup every dry season where we'd go through the river and pick up the rubbish that had washed through in the floods from the previous rainy season. And goodness me, but we used to play what was known as river cleanup bingo. Everybody had different cards, and this is with my guests. They would have different cards with things like shoes or nappies or beer bottle, or you get the idea. Placemats, I found a lot of placemats after the lodge flooded. Lamps, bedside lamps. What else did we find a lot of? Plastic and debris and stuff. That happens after major floods occur and the river washes everything downstream. But we did go and clean up very carefully. Now I just want to check the tracks that are next to me. I think it's hyena. I know that Brent was chatting a little bit to you about the prospect of cheetah plains, which of course we are all exceptionally excited about. Oh, speaking of Brent, he just wants to chat to me quickly. He's standing by. I'm on Cheetah Cut Line close to Buckleship Junction. Brent just checking in, wanting to make sure that we don't end up checking the same areas. But yes, Brent was talking a bit about the prospect of the Cheetah Plains traverse and the possibility of cheetah. Now there were those two male cheetah on Nkoro yesterday afternoon, and I'm really, or close to Cheetah Plains actually, and I'm really hoping that in future, you might be seeing them. But I'm also here to check and see. Every now and again, those males use this cut line as a highway up further to the north and back towards Manuletti. Now, fingers crossed, they might decide to do that this morning. It would be terribly convenient, and that's why I'm checking these hyena tracks as carefully as possible, because cheetah tracks and hyena tracks, if you're looking quickly, it can look quite similar because you see the claw marks in both of those tracks. Cheetah, of course, having the 3 lobes on the back of their pad. They're roughly the same size, depending on the size of your hyena, but the cheetah track, of course, having the 3 lobes at the back as opposed to the hyena. And then, of course, the most important thing to look for is cheetah walk fairly sort of straight, so their back right foot will fall where their front right foot was, and vice versa, whereas hyenas do that crosswalk. So front right falls, back left falls close to it. I would show you, but the light I don't think is terribly good just yet for that. And I will demonstrate or show you a clear example as it gets a little bit lighter. I have a feeling that those animals in the road are just my imagination, but I just want to check quickly. Just my imagination. This cheetah cut line gets me every time. Good morning, Virginia. You were wondering whether or not we will see animals that we don't usually see on Djuma at Cheetah Plains, and the answer is yes, there is a distinctive possibility that that will be the case. We don't often see, there won't be anything that is impossible for us to see here, if that makes sense, because it's unfenced and animals have legs, so they could come straight through to us, but it is a much better environment for animals like cheetah, as we mentioned. Secretary birds is also a distinctive possibility. That sable antelope that appeared once very briefly on Djuma was seen fairly regularly on the Coral camera, which is very close to the Cheetah Plains side of the border. Okay, we're going to take a detour and go and check Buffelshoek Dam. No sign of Tingana crossing just yet either, but my suspicion will be that if he does cross, he will cross further to the south. I'm guessing that just because of the presence of this male we've nicknamed Djuma, the skittish male leopard that's been seen around this area a couple of times. He's not used to vehicles at all, but he is a fairly large leopard, not larger than Tingana, but he is fairly large, and I imagine that Tingana and Djuma will attempt to stay out of each other's way. But with leopards, as our regular viewers know, you never know when they're going to turn up. It's what makes live safaris so exciting. A very good morning, Aqua. I'm actually, I gave that update yesterday that Tundi and Tingana were mating yesterday. They were seen together around Tingana's kill, but I spoke to the other guides and they didn't see them getting around to mating. But what that might mean is they're just at the courtship stage of the relationship. So she might be an estrus. Hello, elephants. Good morning. And how are we today? Are we in a good mood or are we in a grumpy mood? Hello, gorgeous. They're going to come right towards us, I think. We're just going to sit here and let them come to us. What are you doing? Oh, it's you. It's you, you crazy thing. I'm sure this is the crazy elephant that did this to me last time here. He likes to show off the vehicle. Oh, that is too cute. Hey? What are you doing, you crazy thing? This isn't the same elephant that did this to me the last time, but nevertheless putting on such a show for us. Aren't we so lucky? It's playing like a puppy. You're having a great time, little one. I'm almost certain that's a male calf, just by that behavior. Hello, guys. Good morning. Yes, little one. Are you going to come say hello? Or are you done now? You done playing? The little one, just about a year old, maybe a bit older. They're still very, very young. And I'm just going to be quiet for a moment so you can hear them moving about on either side of us. Hello. It's okay. Promise you I'm not any kind of a threat to you. And you're very big and scary. Such a cool feeling. To enjoy a peaceful elephant sighting like this. Hello, Mommy. Dave, can you reach in and just turn my headlights off, please? No, big girl. Actually, no, just wait. Just let her come past. Hello, little one. Sorry. Sorry about that. Not very nice, is it? Yes, little one. Oh, you're so scary. Hello, beautiful. You're a big girl. You're a very big, very pregnant girl. Okay. Yeah, if you can, please. Thank you very much. This is so cool. Speaking very softly, just so that we don't disturb them. I'll just stick quietly so we can listen. You've got a tree on your head. dirt. I've seen this elephant calf before. The smooth back. I absolutely am so in love with this female. She is too beautiful. She's absolutely huge. She really is enormous, and she is so pregnant. An bulging belly. She's extraordinary. We are so incredibly fortunate to enjoy a moment like that. And the smell of them has just completely surrounded us. And that's why I'm speaking very softly, not because we need to be scared, but because they've chosen to come right up past us. It's such a special feeling. And I just wanted to let us all enjoy it in silence. You'll notice every now and again, I'm just checking behind me. It is actually it's a very large herd that's moving through here. There's another large female at the back. But you can see if you compare her stomach to the one before, how different she looks. She might be pregnant, but she's not nearly as pregnant as that female that we were watching. Raisa, I couldn't agree with you more. These magic moments are such a privilege, and it's always a pleasure to be able to share this with you. This is what makes Safari Live special. It's these moments that we absolutely, as guides, fall in love with. And it's made even more special by our ability to share it with you all. A huge breeding herd. Probably, I would say, at least 30 animals, probably more. Now, I'm not turning on the vehicle just yet. We're going to let them move slightly past us before we do. What you got in your mouth, little one? Absolutely. Janet Jones. We were watching that little elephant calf, and it reminded Janet that of the capacity that elephants have to have fun. There's an old female at the back there. Oh, who's you? Janet, I actually think the babies enjoy having us around. I really honestly do. I think it provides them with entertainment where they might otherwise be a bit bored with constantly feeding and nobody to play with. We're just a little bit of extra entertainment. And those moments are incredibly special. I've had a sighting on this road with 3 young males playing together that was absolutely extraordinary, rolling around on top of each other on a termite mound. And these are truly special times. It's a reminder of just how intelligent these animals are. The ability to play and to learn is so clear in them. Even just watching the youngsters with their uncoordinated trunks. It's like watching toddlers learning to grab things and to draw and to hold a pen. All of those things, part of their learning experience. And Christopher, in terms of how old an elephant is when it learns to use its trunk, when it finally learns to use its trunk, It only takes them a couple of months by... Oh, what's happening back there? There's two sparring boys. So Christopher, it will take them a couple of months. I will reposition when I can, which will be fairly soon. Most of them have moved out of my way. But it will take them a couple of years to get as fully coordinated as the adults. And again, just like toddlers, that is determined by the individual personality of the elephant concerned. So children learn things at different paces, so do elephants. And some ellies are just naturally clumsier than others. And some don't ever grow out of that. I certainly didn't grow out of my clumsiness. And some elephants are the same. And you get to know them really well. He's completely, I almost want to say submerged, it's the wrong word, but completely surrounded by the sicklebush tree. Sicklebush have the most horrible thorns, and yet his skin impervious to it. Okay, we can reposition now. We should be able to. I'm just checking around me. It's just a... Here at Louis the Lion. Oh, goodness gracious. That was exceptionally loud. Little male just giving me a talking to as I drive away from him. Naughty boy. So here at Louis the Lion are just saying that they appreciate the silencing moments like that. And it is very important, especially when elephants choose to come to you. When they choose that path, it's important that you respect that. Now, I talk fairly regularly to the elephants, just communicating my intentions through my tone rather than through my words. And that's where a little bit of time spent with elephants is very important. And I have spent many, many hours with them. They're one of my favorite animals, and probably my absolute favorite animal to spend time with. Hello, boy. What was that all about, you cheeky thing? That was a very scary trumpet. And your mom's just ignored you. The rest of the herd have just ignored you completely. So this teenager that trumpeted at us, he's a young male of, and I called him a teenager, he's probably about 10 or so, maybe even a little bit older. So he's at that age where now he's starting to get pushed more and more to the fringes of the herd. And very soon he will be off on his own in the next few years, which is a scary experience for a little male elephant. Oh, that's interesting. Dave, the female at the back there, I know her. That is, I think, oh no, sorry. My mistake. Yes, it is her. The female with only one tusk. There's a few of them around, but I recognize the age of this elephant. I'm fairly certain it's the same one. Now, she obviously broke off that right tusk at some point in her life. Here you go. Just the tusk on the left. And she's quite an old girl. You see how her skull, how prominent the bones are of her skull? And very often the older females do spend a bit of time at the back of the herd. They have to take a bit longer to chew because their teeth are starting to wear down. And although the herd won't abandon them, they do fall behind fairly regularly. What a beautiful sighting. Look at that. You can see she's old. You can actually see it. Just like us, their skin loses elasticity. And their subcutaneous level of fat reduces. So you get the sort of the clearer bones around the face and the skull. Is that an elephant lying down? Yes. Little elephant having a nap at the back. Beautiful, beautiful sighting. Shame, I'm calling her old. She's probably about 40. Now, Mario, who is 7 years old, is astounded at just how big an elephant really is. Mario wanted to know, do elephants ever step on snakes? And Mario, yes, sometimes, but not often. So even though, imagine having a giant nose, a nose so big that you can't see underneath it. That's how an elephant sees. They can't see straight underneath their face or underneath by their feet unless they put their heads right down. So they could step on snakes, but at the same time, they've got such a good sense of smell and an idea of the world around them that it hardly ever happens. Beautiful. Thank you for your question, Mario. Let's go. We'll just follow slowly behind. I wouldn't mind a chance to get in front of them, but obviously we don't want to overstay our welcome. They haven't moved off yet though. We'll be able to stick with them for a little bit longer. That smell is such a lovely way to start the day. Such a gentle, grassy smell. And just like that, several hundred tons of animal has disappeared, melted away into the bush. Now, Alice, who is watching in Ohio, good morning, just chatting a bit about how large elephants really are, was saying that it amazes her that elephants stay so large, eating just grass and trees, and how on earth does that happen? Alice, one of the most important things is, in order to maintain that body weight, the elephants eat constantly. They don't sleep nearly as much as we do. They'll doze for a couple of minutes each day, but they'll feed all the way through the day and all the way through the night. The only exception being the babies, because they've got mommy's milk to feed on. But at the same time, by the way, they are still here. I'm just finding us a nice place to stop and view them. At the same time, if they were carnivores, can you imagine how much they would have to eat? Because generally you'll find there's energy loss as you move down the food chain. So herbivores get more energy out of the sugars of the plants, and predators get less energy out of the meat from their prey. But at the same time, herbivores can eat constantly because there's a food source that's available to them. Imagine a predatory elephant. It would be terrifying. So they are getting the carbohydrates that they need from the trees that they're feeding on, and by constantly eating. But what fascinates me, Alice, is how ineffective their digestive systems really are. So an adult elephant can consume up to 300 kilograms of food per day. That's over 600 pounds worth. And it will excrete or defecate out about a third, if not more, of that food completely undigested. So it is really interesting how that works and how actually inefficient their digestive systems really are. Now, the senior gold, having spoken about the fact that one adult elephant can consume, what is that baby doing again? Is it just trying to have a nap? Different little one from earlier, I think, but nevertheless sitting down on its bottom. What are you doing, little thing? Are you sleepy? Yes, very sleepy. And see the, oh, no, maybe not. Maybe not. All right, everybody's moving. I guess I better get up, but all I want to do is have a nap. Now I'm going to feel all cranky. Aww. Shame. That's pretty much how I felt this morning, to be completely honest. I usually bound out of bed, but this morning was a bit more of a struggle. Sorry, Senior Gold, we were just talking about elephants feeding and you were wondering how fast a plant life regenerates and reseeds, since it astounds you that with all the herbivore activity, we still have as much plant life as we do. There's a couple really interesting points on that. First of all, elephants move constantly as they feed. And the reason that they do that, I'm going to reposition so we can have a look at these two youngsters fighting. There's a bull off to our left, who's quite young still. Oh, there's actually more of a herd off to our right, sorry. Got my lefts and my rights confused. I'm going to stop here just so we can watch playtime while I answer Senior Gold's question. So, elephants move constantly as they feed. One of the biggest reasons behind that is that the trees around them, not just the trees that they're feeding on, but those around them as well, are releasing a substance known as tannins that make the trees particularly bitter to feed on. And once the tree has started releasing those tannins as a defense mechanism, they also release a pheromone that inspires surrounding trees in the area to start producing and releasing tannins as well. And what that does is it ensures that an area is not overgrazed or overfed on by the animal life. And that applies for all animals, not just elephants. These two are having a great time. Bulldozing each other. Whoop. Mock mounting. Display of dominance. And there's also the fact that this ecosystem is entirely dependent on the action of the herbivores. Now, we are understanding more and more the interconnectedness of everything that happens or occurs here. Elephants evolved with the grass and the trees that they live in, and as a result, they're actually an essential part of maintaining this very delicate balance that is a savanna ecosystem. The trees and the grass have to be in a very sort of specific amount in order to survive. That's one of the reasons why fire can be so important, and regular burning can be fairly important. I'm not talking every year, but every couple of years. What the elephants do is they ensure that the trees don't actually block out the grass completely. Too many trees, you've got no grass. Too much grass, you've got no space for, although generally too much grass doesn't really occur. But you can get an idea of what I mean. That herbivore activity, that hoof activity, has actually evolved alongside this ecosystem to keep the grass growing. A herd of buffalo moving through will move almost constantly, graze an area, and then not return to it for quite a long period of time. The difference where that doesn't always work, or where that theory doesn't always work, is something we've spoken about fairly regularly about man-made water holes or man-made dams. And we'll see it more and more in the drought, both on natural water sources and around man-made dams, that you will get grass and trees being completely mown through because the animals are hungry, but they also want to drink. And as a result, the topsoil layer will start to erode. So that's the damage that this drought is going to do to the ecosystem itself. And in that situation, Senior Gold, to actually get back to the question you were asking, the regenerative properties of the ecosystem are still there, but might take a couple of years to recover rather than a couple of days. The trees regenerate fairly quickly. And yes, occasionally elephants do kill trees. If they've ring-barked them completely, so strip the bark away, or if perhaps they have opened up the bark layer in order for wood borers and other such parasites to enter into the trees. Clayton, just to go back to a point I made earlier that you missed. You were wondering about how many pounds of food a day. There's our lovely old girl. It's not the best view, but it is the view that we're going to stick with. And keep an eye on the ones that are moving about on my right as well. They're very far into the block. They're sort of walking parallel with me. Clayton was just wondering how many pounds of food an elephant will eat. He missed it. The answer is over 6 for a big elephant. So let's say a big bull or a big cow, over 600 pounds of food consumed in 24 hours. That's an enormous amount. And then what would that be? About 200 pounds of that is excreted as dung. A tremendous amount of wastage that actually happens if we think of it in those terms. But obviously we can't. Now, the older the elephant gets, the more inefficient their chewing becomes. We've spoken a lot about the fact that elephants have 6 sets of molars in their lives. And once they reach the end of the 6th set, that has worn down, there are no more teeth to replace that, and they start to struggle to chew. And so they don't digest as efficiently as younger elephants do. And that's what actually gives rise to the stories about elephant graveyards. Because what happens is elephants move to when they get very old, before the end of their lives, they will move to a riverbed where there are soft reeds and soft food for them to eat with more nutrition. And they will eventually die of old age and various complications relating to their lack of condition because they can't chew. And they'll die, and what will happen is there'll be a big flood that will wash their bones into corners of riverbeds where they will settle along flood lines. And that has given rise to the rumor that elephants go to a specific place to die. They don't. It just happens to... That's just how the process has come to give rise to that rumor. Okay, we've got most of our ellies off the road now. I'm just seeing if we can go ahead of them and wait for them to come to us. Now, Cindy, that elephants walk, their front and the way that they place their front legs is so powerful and yet so quiet at the same time. Completely understand what you mean. I also really enjoy watching elephants walk, and I love watching as their foot lands, the way that that spongy tissue expands and absorbs the weight of the creature. I mean, you just think about how big those must be, how strong they must be, and how it dissipates the weight and makes them so incredibly quiet. It is a wonderful thing to observe. And loop ahead of our lovely herd of elephants. Let's see if they don't come out on the other side of the block. While I do that, let's get an update from Brent.
So we have not been able to find a single leopard track. That drag mark turned out not to be a drag mark. So we are leaving that area for now, and we're going to go see what's happening in the west. So first we're going to check down towards the boundary of Arathusa and Djuma and go into the western channel, see if there's any updates on Arathusa. And other than that, we're just going to go fiddle about, see what we can find. A report that male leopard that I heard calling last night was Tingana, but unfortunately he went further south away from Djuma instead of into Djuma. But he's on his patrol, so he should be back in a day or two. And we will be definitely keeping an eye out for him. And I'm not sure. The Birminghams were last seen on the Kruger Park boundary with Buffalo's Hook. I know there's some people going to have a look around there this morning, see if they can find them. So if they do find them, I will keep you updated, or Jamie will at least. And the wonderful thing is, no one's seen the wild dogs for a day or two. No tracks, no nothing, so who knows, maybe they'll pop into Djuma to say hello. So it is mating season for the wild dogs at the moment, and they will be starting to excavate and check potential den sites. The main reason we're checking along here is we did follow Shadow's tracks for a very long time yesterday. I'm wondering if she pops out of the safari donga or drainage or little riverbed again. This safari donga, as it's called, or it's a little dry riverbed, is one of Shadow's favorite areas for keeping cubs. Let's hope she is a little bit more successful with this next litter than she has been with her past litters. So there's a lot of excitement when our Cheetah Plains Traverse comes through. Very, very exciting stuff. It'll be fascinating to explore a slightly different area of the Sabi Sands with slightly different geology and soil type. Leanne would like to know, do they have ostriches at Cheetah Plains, and are they comfortable with vehicles? Never seen one on the live safari. It is a possibility. Of all the places that we're most likely to see an ostrich, it would be on Cheetah Plains because of the soil types. There's more open grassland there, and they do prefer that. But again, we're probably only going to see them during the very dry months, and whether they're comfortable with vehicles or not, we'll have to wait to find out. Been quite a few buffalo across the road here, some old Duggar boys, and looking at the tracks is like finding out who was out and about last night. So far, no one we're particularly interested in looking at just yet. Lots of hyena tracks, lots of ellie tracks, and lots of buffalo tracks so far, along with some of the smaller nocturnal stuff like civets, genets. So one of the reasons I like to get out in these main access roads early to check for tracks is before the road becomes busy and vehicles potentially drive over the tracks, which makes it a lot harder for us to find them. Oh, apparently young Connor the Carnivore says he thinks he heard something die outside Final Control. Now, I'm going to ask you, Connor, what did it sound like? Did it sound something like this? Or are you hearing elephants fighting? So, Connor, did it sound like that before I rushed towards Final Control? Apparently there are some alarm calls as well. It's very important. Elephants can make a lot of different noises, and quite often people might think it is the distress call of something being killed by a predator, but it is very distinct sound. So I am driving a little bit faster just in case there is murder and mayhem happening back at Final Control. Connor's not 100% sure. There were elephants in that area. But Connor, can you, those sounds I made, did it sound anything like that? Okay, he was outside. So Connor, did it sound anything like this? Or a little bit more high-pitched? Okay, so apparently Connor says it didn't sound anything like that. It sounded like something, a cross between a growling, an elephant and a buffalo, I mean a lion and a buffalo or something like that. So I'm going to go with, I'm 95% sure that it was an elephant. As I said, elephants have such a wide variety of calls, and if you're hearing any form of growling, I mean, it's very unusual for it to be lions. I mean, lions will be a and leopard also similar to that if they're fighting with something. And again, it's not going to be that loud that you're going to be hearing from far away. Whereas elephants, their screams, growls, there's such a huge amount of different sounds an elephant can make. So I will go investigate, but I am going to investigate this road first because I can see someone tracking up ahead. So I'm going to go get an update from there. And I think they could be tracking Madam Shadow, who we're looking for. Or maybe the Inkahumas have decided to pay us another visit. No one has a clue where they disappeared to. And they haven't been seen in the north or the south, but the last time they were very far west. The last tracks I had were heading out of Arathusa towards Elephant Plains. Oh! Speak of the elephant, well, you can already see that one's not relaxed. Running across the road, it was a female. So she is not very relaxed at all. We're not going to stay with her. I'm going to keep going. Just go past slowly. We don't want to drive fast and incite a possible chase. I think maybe she just got a little fright as we came down the road. And these Ellies look quite relaxed, but I just want to go up ahead and to chat. Hello, lady. Yeah, they're not 100% relaxed. They're backing away as we come past. We'll leave them be for now. I just want to get an update from this vehicle that's coming down the road, and then I will go check what is happening around final control and the Djuma Dam camp. So this could be a little bit of a long conversation, so let's maybe jump across to Jamie if she's ready. Morning, Uncle Tristan. Hello, everyone.
How are you?
How are you? So we're going to jump across to Jamie while I do a quick update with Tristan. So we'll see you just now.
Now I hear that you have been listening to some strange sounds on the Djuma Dam camera, so I'm on my way to go and investigate. Hello, ladies. I just stopped for a herd of Inyala that we see fairly regularly on this road. I'm still a little bit far away. Sorry, just listening to the Game Drive comms. Okay. So, exciting stuff potentially happening around the Djuma Dam. I was just thinking about it as I was driving along. Now, we're far away, but our elephant herd could probably hear exactly what was going on there. And I just wonder what they must think when they hear stuff like that and how they perceive it and interpret it. Our Inyala don't seem too phased, although they probably heard it as well with their extraordinary radar-like ears. I'm just going to let them cross the road in front of me, and then we'll move on and we'll carry on our way towards the Djuma Dam and see if we can't figure out what's happening there. That's lovely. A whole herd's going to come across. There's some youngsters as well. We've seen this herd with the males playing before, just like our baby elephants, dashing about like there's an obstacle course. And off you go. Now, nyala are interesting animals. You will see babies at all times of the year. And they are not like impala where they have a specific breeding season. I've seen babies born midwinter, I've seen babies born in midsummer. So the constant flow of hormones keeps them as very interesting animals, because you will always have a chance to see the males displaying for the attentions of the ladies and to scare away other males. Hello. They do that incredible slow motion dance that nyala are so famous for, and that you don't see any of the other antelope doing to quite the same degree. For various animal movements, we might
So, morning meeting over. Apologies for the gremlins with Jamie. So there were tracks of what looks like shadow around there, but they went back into Sibambili, but they might come out into Arathusa. So I'm going to go check what this mysterious noise at final control. I'm still quite convinced it was elephants, but we will go check to keep everyone happy, and then I'll head back towards those leopard tracks. So Aqua is wondering about another leopard we'll possibly get to see when we are on Cheetah Plains. Thandi, we have seen her mating with Tingana. And Thandi, for those who don't know, is from Karula's first litter and Shadow's litter mate, so Shadow's sister. And Aqua is wondering where is her territory in comparison to the other two, to Shadow and Karula. So, let me think of the best way to show you. Aqua, just give me half a second. But we are making our way back down towards final control, and we should get some clarity on what was making that incredible noise that everyone heard. No, it's not on this one yet. That's why I can't find it. Okay. There we have the white is where we traverse at the moment. So Shadow's territory is pretty much from there up to the into the green, up to the boundary fence, and down around and like that. Karula's territory from the boundary of Shadows does this, and she has the whole of Djuma, apart from this little western section where Shadow comes, and into Torchwood there, and then down into Little Gowrie, and then borders with Shadow again in the west. Thandi is from this bottom section here and further to the east, so around here. So the 3 largest territories in our area are all inhabited by Karula and her kids. So she hasn't had too many female cubs. So those 2 from her first litter have set up territory adjacent to Queen Karula. Now, what happens with leopards, and there's very different strategies for raising male cubs as it is to raising female cubs. So female leopards will put a lot more time and effort into a male cub than a female cub, and there's a couple of important reasons for this. So with female cubs, they generally become independent much younger than the males, so they're not reliant on mom from anything from a year to a year and a half, whereas the males will hang around for sometimes over 2 years. Now, what will happen with a female cub is that the mother will basically shrink her territory size and give the female cub a really good part of her territory. Now, what this does is it enables her to start off with a much better chance of survival, not having to immediately go to battle with an adult female leopard who could be quite well versed and experienced in fighting. So what happens is the female actually push herself into a slightly more marginal area, and you'll notice female leopards, as they get older, their territories shrink, and their daughters take over. So when it comes towards the end of a female leopard's life, she's inhabiting a very tiny territory and generally not the best territory. So very interesting that. So she gives the better areas to her kids. Now that's with females. So with males, it's slightly different. The reason they put more time and effort into males is that that is their best chance of spreading their genetic code over a much wider area. So those males will move away from the natal range. It also helps curb inbreeding, and those males will mate with multiple females over their lives. So there's going to be multiple lines of that genetic code going out into different females. Whereas with females, it's going to be one line of that genetic code for one individual. So one female passes on one line of the mother's genetic code, whereas the male will pass off multiple genetic codes over the years. Now, males also need to be a bit bigger and stronger when they disappear off into the wilderness to become dispersal males. They're going to need to be a little bit bigger. They're going to need to fend for themselves a bit better, and they're also probably going to come into contact with other leopards, so they're going to have to be that bit bigger and stronger to be able to fight or run away effectively, whereas the females have a relatively safe start to life in comparison to the males. Aha, so I think my original guess was correct, that it was elephants. There is a problematic or naughty elephant bull at the moment. There we have 2. One has got the hole in the ear, the one we know quite well, and then there's another one with a big rip in his ear who's been mangling fences and chasing cars. So I think that noise was probably heard, and he's in must, was that particular elephant maybe chasing others, or even screaming and chasing zebra or wildebeest or anything. Here's a particularly cantankerous gentleman. We might go have a look at him now, but we're not going to go very close to him at all. But I will show you some of his handiwork. But back onto, while we move slowly towards that area, back onto leopards and leopard territories. So now, once the male has got sort of that 4 or 5 years old, maybe 6, and he's challenged and successfully won a territory and home range for himself to set up shop in, with lovely ladies to mate with, etc., he will then, after being in the same place for about 3 or 4 years, he will shift his territory again and this is quite common in males, and this is his next shift, so he doesn't breed with his adult daughters. So very, very interesting stuff. Here is some of the elephant's handiwork. He decided he really wanted to see what was on the other side of the fence. So you can see that steel has literally been bent like a little, what would you say, like a piece of
Licorice.
licorice. Yes, well done, Jim. That's lovely, lovely visual. So literally bent the steel standards of the fence like a piece of licorice. Yes. Unlike licorice, he will not be eating the fence. He's gone inside to see if there's anything nice to eat inside there, and obviously he's found stuff because he's done it about 4 or 5 times now. Now, there we go, you can see he's bent the fence. There's multiple places where he has bent. We're just going to give you a quick view of him from a distance before we go across to Jamie, who's got some probably far more civilized elephants. So we're not going to get too close to him. He is very, very cheeky. There he is. You can see a big adult bull. He is in full mush. We're not going to go any closer. And so I'm just going to jump across to Jamie now. I'm just going to have to let everyone in the lodge know just to be careful that the cheeky Ellie is still around. Now you can see he's already just spotted us and now he's on his way. So we're going to get out of here before he gets here. So let's go see Jamie.
Alrighty, so we are with the herd of elephants that I strongly suspect is responsible for the peculiar sounds emanating from the Djuma Dam camera. Now, the reason we are so far away is that even though they are perfectly relaxed, I think that they have been harassed by that particular bull. We've got quite a few of them moving through this area following a female. And it's a female with a snared trunk, but I don't think it's the female that we've usually seen. So she has half a trunk almost. It's less than the female that we've usually been watching. And in fact, we've got some large bulls moving down the road towards us as well. And I think there's just a little bit of upset in the elephant world. Lots of bulls gathering together, a lot of them fairly large. And that's why I'm giving the elephants as much personal space as possible. I noticed when we first parked off here that all of the elephants walking past us were streaming from their temporal glands, the females, which immediately tells me that they have been stressed out this morning. So I just wanted to show you them. We're not going to linger, we're not going to try and get any closer. We're just going to let them go about their daily business. They're not in any way bothered by us. It's something really nice to see, that we're not having an effect on them, and that in fact it's probably that bull or a couple of the bulls that are harassing. It does occasionally happen. You get groups of males moving together in a bachelor herd. They find a female or group of breeding herd and they just stick with them a little bit too much. The females get upset. They've got youngsters with them. They might not be an estrus and they might not appreciate the attention being drawn to them. I'm going to try and just reposition, just change our direction that we're facing. Now, a lot of what we do, almost the most important, I would say, part of what we do, and we're going to stop here and we're going to wait for this female to come out, if she does come out into the open. One of the most important aspects of what we do is actually reading elephant body behavior or body language. Now, they use that body language to communicate with other elephants. They also use it to communicate with us, and it's up to us to learn to read it. Do I think that I have a full grasp of every nuance of elephant communication? No, not at all. I've been watching documentaries on Joyce Poole, who was was the person responsible for the discovery that elephants actually communicate with that sub-frequency that we can't hear, and that that sound is capable of traveling tremendous distances. And I was watching her interpret an elephant's trunk twisting, just twisting. That was all it was doing. The elephant was standing completely still, doing that with the tip of its trunk. And she turned around and said she's going to charge. And she did. In fact, the whole herd charged them. Look, it's a very different scenario. It was in Gorongosa in Mozambique, where the elephants have been plagued by civil wars. But to have that level of insight into elephant behavior and body language is something that I absolutely aspire to. That being said, I do think I can read the basics fairly well. And the elephants will tell you all that you need to know about them with their day-to-day life by just watching the various signs. Tail is important, head position is important, and the trunk is important. Those are the three main signs of what you're looking for. Sandra, you were wondering what does it mean when an elephant wags its ears or flaps its ears? If it's a slow, random movement, every now and again, that's just the elephant being perfectly relaxed. It's the elephant cooling down. As you know, it's got that network of blood vessels within the very thin elephant ear that allows, as the air moves over it, it cools them down gradually as they wag them. If they turn around and they do this, ears out and hold, and they're looking at you, and it's usually accompanied by a head shake, that means one of two things, and there's a very subtle line between them. One is, I'm watching you, don't move, or don't come any closer, and one is, go away. And it's all about reading the body language together that actually really gives you that summation of what it is they want you to do. When an elephant walks down the road towards you like this, and with its tail wagging, steps nice and slow, that's absolutely fine. An elephant with a stiff tail or an upright tail, and what we've noticed with our ripped ear elephant and with the elephant with a hole in his ear, they both display in the same way. They have their tusks obviously like that, and they both put their trunks over like this, and they rub up and down their tusks. Both of them do it, and it's really, really interesting behavior. And that immediately to me now is a new sign that I've learned that elephant really does mean business when it comes to the presence of the vehicles. I was hoping that our female would come out, although I'm actually quite happy that she's there. She's right sort of next to that tall tree on the left in the bushes, but moving away from us. Now, I'm going to let her just walk away from us. I mentioned that she had a half a trunk, and it's less than our female that we see regularly with about a third of her trunk missing or about a quarter of her trunk missing. This elephant really is missing about half of its trunk. Now, an injury like that might have been from a crocodile. That is one possibility, but most likely and very sadly, it was probably as a result of a snare that was set along the fence line for bushmeat by desperate people looking for food, and she got stuck in it, and it actually eventually got to the point where a snare, of course, being a piece of metal that tightened on the ends of their trunk. Now, it wouldn't have happened here. The Sabi Sands has got a tremendously good patrol and conservation strategy that ensures that sort of thing doesn't happen. But as you know, we are completely unfenced, and the borders of the park that we are in stretch all the way across to Zimbabwe and Mozambique. So it might have been something she acquired there. There she goes with the little one. She's also got a young baby. It's not, however, our snared trunk elephant. There's little one following her. And what I've noticed is that these snared trunk females are very often fairly separate from the main body of a herd. And what I noticed with her is that she snores constantly. And that's very clearly from the injury to her trunk. Shame. Poor girl. But that being said, as sad as that is to see, she will be absolutely fine. She's more than capable of providing for herself and her little one. And look at all of the boys, sorry. Look at all the boys following her. A trio of trouble there.